Hello everybody, welcome today. In the next episode we'll be starting with a new game today, so I hope you will join. Let me just quickly check if everything is working properly and we can start right away. Okay, just a quick test of the sound. And once again, okay, seems like it's working, so we'll just start in a moment. Okay, so I'll create quickly a new project which will be called Arcade Shooter, and just create with a template of 3D, because although this is kind of a 2D game, we can just use a 3D template because we'll be using 3D objects. Okay, quickly check if it's working. Yep. Alright. Okay, so wait, this changed. It's not. It's fine. Okay, alright. So let's change. First of all, let's go to the file, go to build settings, to the player settings over here, and change the resolution and presentation over here. Right up to a windowed over here, and change the resolution to 600 by 900. Okay, you can also disallow the full screen switch. It's not necessary, but it's only depending on whether you want the players to be able to resize the window, and I just want to unclick it, uncheck it. Okay, that's my that's what I wanted to change. Now, if I go to the game over here, you have probably just selected a free aspect over here, so it doesn't change the whole resolution. I want you to change it to the standalone, the resolution we have created. 1 second, because I cannot see the chat. Okay, I can see it now. Good. Okay, so when you change it, you can see that the screen resolution changed over here. Okay, so let's go to scene and click on the camera and change it from the projection, from the perspective in the projection, from perspective to orthographic, so it's more like a 2D. As you can see, it's without the perspective. It's just orthographic. And right now, this is the place where the whole game will be in this like big box over here. Okay, so let's create a couple of objects. So there will be a cube, which will be the player. Let's just quickly rename it to player. We also need a 3D sphere, which will be a enemy meteor, and create a 3D object, which will be a capsule, which will be enemy shooter. Okay, yeah, this is it for now. Let's quickly now change, add tags for them. So just go over here to the tag, add tag, create a new one, which will be called enemy, and just select both of these and change the tag to the enemy. Now, as the same thing over here, so go to player, hit tag and change it to player. You can also change the transform by selecting all of them, right clicking on transform and clicking reset. Okay, so they are in the center right now, as you can see. We also want to add a 3D quad, which will be like the background behind the scene. And we want to resize it to be, well, quite bigger. So I'll just go 40 by 40 and see. Oh, it covers the entire screen over here, so it's good. I'll just quickly also create a material background, just so we can actually see something, and changed the albedo of it to black, and just apply it to the quad, so we can actually see our entities inside the game. Now, also I want to change the directional light, the rotation of it, from the default one to, well, it should be like that. Actually, no, it's 0, 0, it's fine. Okay, good. This is just temporary, so we can actually see it. Later on, we can actually just change the lighting to point light and area light. It will have much nicer effect. Okay, let's see, it's fine. Good. Okay, so now we have our player, which needs a script for movement. Let's just create a folder for our scripts. Yep, go inside the folder and create some C# scripts. So first of all, we'll have a player script. We also need a player bolt, which will be like a bullet from the player game object, which will fly up, trying to hit an enemy and destroy it. And the other way around. So we need a meteor. Oh wait, something happened. My bad. Yes. Create a new C# script. Name it meteor, or just enemy meteor. Okay. Create a new C# script. Also an enemy shooter, and also enemy bolt. Okay, so we need a script for each one of enemy entities, because every single one will have a different effect, basically. Okay, and also, so we have all these three scripts, and also we could add just an enemy script, which will just move all of these enemies downwards. Or actually, we'll just stick without it, because we need every single one of these to have different movement speed set up. Okay, so let's just launch one of these. Open it up, just go back and open every single one, so we have them on our tabs here. Okay, so let's start from the player. We want it to move on the x-axis, as you can see. Let's just go to game, click player, and just change the x value over here, so it moves left and right. That's our goal. So we can reset it. Let's just go back over here, and we need a rigid body, so we can write down rigid body RB. Then we need a float speed, which we can actually make public. And now in the start function, we want to assign the rigid body, so RB equals get component rigid body. Oh, yep. Okay, and then in the update function, we need to check for the inputs. So if input.getKey keycode.a, because we are checking if he's moving to the left, so it's an A. If he's moving to the right, and also a get key down, which will be for our shoot. This will be for layer. Okay, so we have an RB over here. Now we need to change the velocity of it. So RB.velocity if you have been to the last episodes on the 2D game, it works very similarly. Basically, we're just changing the velocity, but over here we need to change it just on the x-axis. So a new new vector 3. Now we need to apply the speed, which to the left is negative value, so minus speed times time dot delta time, right? Then also just 0 and 0, because we don't want to change the velocity on the y nor the z axis. And over here we just do the exactly same thing, and just changing the minus speed into a speed. Okay. Sorry, this is not a, just a space bar, so space, or whatever button you're using for shooting. In my case, it's just a space bar. Okay, so we have these this movement script simply. We just need to set up the speed for the player. Let's just quickly see if it works. I'm not sure what value we should put in, so I'll just go with 20 and see if it works at all. There is no rigid body. Okay, right, because we didn't add the rigid body. We also want to add the rigid body on both enemies, so we can just select all of them and type down rigid body, add it. We also don't want the gravity over here, and we also want to freeze some constraints over here. So as for the enemies, we want it to have all the freezing rotation, and also we need to freeze the position on x and z axis, because the enemies will just keep flying downwards. And on a player, instead of having the y-axis not frozen, we'll have just the x-axis not frozen, because our player will be allowed to move left and right, but he won't be allowed to move up and down, nor like back and forth. So we can just freeze the whole rotation and y and z axis. Good. Okay, so as we have all these three, do we have the colliders on them? Yes. Okay, so let's also change the enemy entities colliders into a trigger over here, and over here as well. Good. Just for later. And now we can actually try and see if we can move. Alright, we can move, but it's really slow, and also we don't have any stopping option right now. So whenever we are not holding none of these buttons, so not holding the D or the A button, then we want to have the RB.velocity turned down to 0. Okay, so let's see, else, let's just add else if over here, so like that. And if he's not holding the A or D button, then we want the RB.velocity to be new vector 3 0 0 0, and hopefully this should work. Right, okay, so he just stops if we don't hold A or D button. Good. And also just change the speed to like, let's try 100. We'll just adjust this later in the playtesting, because right now it's just pointless to change to manipulate these values. Okay, so now we have the enemy bolt, enemy meteor, and enemy shooter, and we want all of them to move downwards in every single frame, but we also want them to not move just in a stuttering way. We want them to move in... Oh, it's actually fine if we just hit it in the update function. Okay, so let's go up here and say rigid body RB, and also we need a speed, so we can float speed. And let's see, so the enemy bolt should probably always have the same value for the speed, so we can just set it up over here, so just public float speed. We also will have the same thing on the enemy meteor and the shooter, so we can just copy them between these tabs. Good. So this is always the same value, so it is public. And in the start function, we need to assign the rigid body. So rb equals get component of type rigid body. Okay, and the speed is assigned already, so we just need to go to update and type down rb.velocity equals new vector 3, and then we have on the x-axis to be 0 because we don't want to move the enemy bolt sideways. We just want it to move downwards all the time. So vector 3. Sorry, what was it? Okay, so minus speed and a 0 again because we don't want to move it back and forth. Okay, good. So the velocity is set to alright, and just instead of having just minus speed, we want to apply a time delta time, so it doesn't stutter if there is not enough frames in the game. Okay, so this is basically the movement script over here, and we also want to apply it to both enemy meteor and an enemy shooter over here. Boom, boom. Okay, so now speed over here on the enemy shooter, we can actually apply a random value to it, so it doesn't have to be always the same. So let's say we want the enemy shooter to be, let's just actually leave this public float speed over here and apply a value which will be like minus and plus 10 of the initial speed value. So speed equals random dot range, and in the brackets we want to, as you can see, the float minimum and the float maximum, both inclusive. So we can just say speed minus 10 and speed plus 10. We'll just see if these values are just fine. Okay, good. And also this is the update, and it is a shooter, so it's just going downwards. Okay, so in this case we also want to make the enemy shoot, and we need to set a delay between the shoots, between the shots. So there is a float delay, and let's set it over here to if, and so there's a float delay and also a float, we want to set this delay to be public, float time passed. Okay, so there is a variable which will count how much time has passed from the last shot. So if the time passed is greater than or equal to delay, then we want to shoot, and else we want to apply a value to the time passed plus equals time to delta time, because this is the time that happened between the frames, so between another update callouts, so time to delta time. Good. And if he shoots, we want to also reset the time passed, so time passed equals 0. Okay, good. So this is how he will shoot. And now let's see, enemy meteor. He's just moving downwards, it's fine. There's an enemy bolt which is just moving downwards, good. We can also adjust the speed over here, just the same way we have on the enemy shooter. So we can actually, let's just go back. So we can just take this over here and just copy it down on here. Good. Okay. Right. So now let's just start with the instantiation. Let's create a script first, which will be a game manager. Game manager. You'll see the icon change. Yep, just like that. So it is just a simple script as well. this script will handle the delay between spawning new objects. So let's see. Let's create an array of game objects. So these will be our prefabs, enemy prefabs. Just make the uppercase letter first. The enemy prefabs, right? And then we also want the float to float delay and time passed. Float time passed. We also want this delay to be it can be actually public, doesn't hurt. Okay, so there is an update function which will do just the same thing we did on the shooter over here. So the time passed thing over here, but instead of shoot, we want to create new enemy. Right. Okay, so we need to also randomize between an enemy create new enemy. Okay, so let's go and create one. So there is a function called instantiate, and then we need to set what object has to be instantiated into the game. So this will be a random enemy prefabs. So enemy prefabs, and in the brackets over here, pointing out which object from the array has to be, which index in the array. We just want to randomize a random value between 0, so random.range, from 0 to enemy prefabs.length, which will return the amount of objects inside of the array. And remember, arrays count from 0 to whatever the amount of object there is, -1, but the random.range, as you can see, maximum is exclusive. So if we have 3 objects, it will only randomize between 0, 1 and 2, not 3. Okay, so we want to also instantiate it in a specific place. We need to create a new vector3 because we want to have an offset on where this game object is created. This wait, am I right? Yeah. Okay, so we want to randomize between randomize on the axis whether how far these units will spawn. So in my case, I want them to be between -3 and 3, as you can see, left and right. Okay, so random.range between 0 and 3, -3 and 3. Right, this is the x value. On the y value, I want it to be like, let's say 6 maybe? 3, 5, 6, 7. Okay, let's just say 7 then. So 7 and 0 on the z value, or the z axis, sorry. And there is also one more thing we need to add, which will be, as you can see, this, we want to change it to this. So there is an object original, so what object has to be spawned, the position of it, and a quaternion rotation. So quaternions are really complicated, and just let's say the identity, which will just make the rotation to be 0, 0, 0 in this case, and just leave it like that. It's just going to work because they will spawn with the right rotation. Okay, so we have a new enemy over here. It will spawn an enemy from this array that we have to apply first, that we have to create first. Good. And then we can also do a little trick over here. We can also change the delay to be somewhat randomized, so we can just random.range between like 1 to 2 seconds. Let's just say maybe 0.7 and like 1. I don't know, 5, maybe 7. Yeah, just go like that. F and F. So the delay is between 0.7 and 1.7. then we just don't need it to be public because it will be randomized at first, but first we need to set it up back to 1f. Okay, good. Good. So we can actually instantiate objects right now. So let's create an empty game object over here. We can just name it game manager. Add the script over here. We also will it compile. Alright, sorry. So this game object, the array of game object has to be public because we want to apply the prefabs over here to it. We can just reset this values, and now we can, as we have these prefabs over here, we need to create these prefabs from the meteor and the shooter. So just drag them, sorry, not into the scripts, but into prefabs, a new folder. Open it up and just add these down over here. We have to do it one by one. Okay. So there is an enemy shooter and an enemy meteor. Right, they don't have scripts on them attached. Yeah, apparently. Okay. Let's just quickly change this. So just add the enemy shooter over here. Okay, and an enemy meteor over here. Good, let's just change the speed to be like 100. We'll see if these values are actually good. And this delay over here to be, well, let's say 0.7. We can't really shoot yet, but it will just be for later. So just before we actually quickly test it, we just wanted to move up a bit so we can actually see it. We want to move the player down a bit, so like over here it's like -3 point, maybe 5. Yeah, sure, why not? Again, my bad hasn't fixed it. All right, let's just see what happens now. So these are moving down, they are very, very slow. We want to change the speed definitely, but is this alright? We didn't apply these prefabs over here, so we can just drag, wait, not like that, we need to drag them from game manager, from here, from prefabs, just drag it over here, and these will just expand the size of the array and just add it over here. Right, let's see. Okay, so these are actually spawning, but they are quite big. As you can see, they are quite big. And let's just quickly see if the Z value on them are good. Yes, they are good. Okay, they are also, for some reason, they are also always having an int value, integer value. So let's see. Because this returns an integer value. And I actually want it to be a float. So can I add an f at the end? Will this change to? No, it doesn't change to float. Will this work? Okay, should work now. Okay, good. Right, so this should now actually use not integer values, but instead just float values. And also we want to, let's actually just change the speed over here to like 150, and under these change it to like 150 as well, maybe even more, like 200, why not? And 200 as well. Okay, and just resize them because the scale is too big right now. We want to change it. Let's just drag them down a bit so we can actually see them. And let's scale them down to like, let's say 0.4 on all three axes. I mean, yeah, this should be okay. Just change this meteors like 0.6, 0.8 even maybe. Works for me. So just hit apply over here. Let's see once again. So we can actually adjust the speed if you wanted to, and change the range of the randomized speed for the enemies as well, because they don't really move. The speed values on them aren't really that different to be noticed. So let's just go back to game manager, no, sorry, into the game meteor and shooter, and change this range over here to like -40 and +40. Same as well here. Okay, good. And also now an enemy bolt should have the speed of like 250. How much do they have right now? Yeah, at least like 250, maybe even more. Okay, so let's create a 3D object, which will be a bolt, cylinder, and this will be an enemy projectile, and we also want to create a friendly projectile. So cylinder as well, so friendly projectile. We can also tag it as an enemy, because it's still an enemy. And we can actually apply the enemy meteor script to it, because it just moves down. That's all that it has to do. So we can just drag it onto the projectile, enemy projectile. We can adjust the speed to like be let's say 250. Oh, sorry, because it does have the randomized value between -40 and +40. So let's just give it a 340, 300 maybe. Let's see. Okay, and change the scale of it to like 0.1, 0.1. Let's see how big it is. Scene. Sorry, just reset it and just drag this thing here. Alright, because I reset this. 1.1. Okay, drag it a bit over here. And let's see, it's very tiny, and yeah, I'll just quickly add a little bit more over here on this axis, and a little bit more over here, like that. Okay, this is good. Good, so this is an enemy projectile. We tag it as an enemy as well, because it has to just hurt the player and be a trigger. Add a friendly projectile. Instead of having, you can actually just copy these values. So we can just copy component over here, go to friendly projectile, hit right click on the transform, and paste component values. So it just copies everything on the transform. Right, so this is a friendly projectile, this is an enemy projectile over here. This has the enemy meteor script, this does not, because we need a player bolt over here. So the player bolt basically has the same thing as the enemy meteor script, so we can just copy it down. But instead of having this speed randomized, we don't want it to be randomized, we want it to be just basically static. And also we need to change the speed from minus speed to just speed. So now we just set up the speed of the bolt. So friendly projectile, speed to be like 200. Good. And just create a prefab out of it in the prefabs folder. Friendly projectile and an enemy projectile over here. Okay, good. So enemy shooter right now has this speed and the delay. So we need to have it to instantiate. We can just copy this over here. Go to enemy shooter, and in this shoot over here, we want to instantiate a prefab, which will be on basically the transform dot position dot x value, because we don't want to change the x value of it. Oh, sorry, my bad. We need to instantiate this prefab. So go over here, public game object manager, projectile prefab. Go over here, instantiate the projectile prefab. Now new vector 3, just take this out, new vector 3, and instead of randomizing it, we want to have transform.position.x, transform.position.y plus, because we want it to be this an enemy should, so we actually just want to have minus like 0.25, maybe 0.10, maybe just 0.20f, just see 0.2f. Let's see, and a transform.position transform.position.z value, so it's basically 0, and the quaternion identity as well. Okay, so this is it, and just copy this into the player bolt, and instead of sorry, no, we want to instantiate it when the player shoots, so it's over here. So instantiate a projectile prefab, we want the same over here, so public game object projectile prefab. Alright, so this is going to spawn, but instead of going down reverse over here, we just want it to go up 0.2f, or maybe a bit more, we'll see. And then we'll just spawn a friendly player bolt, a friendly projectile over here. Right, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now go to player projectile prefab over here, so we just add the friendly projectile over here. Check if it has the speed. It does. Everything has the current speed. So enemy shooter needs to have the prefab, so the projectile prefab over here. So we can just drag the enemy projectile over here. Okay, and just this should apply already. Enemy meter is fine, this is fine. Alright, let's see if this is going to, how many things are going to work and what is going to show us an error. Let's just quickly see. Okay, so there's a lot of errors. Let's see. We don't have a rigid body on the enemy projectile, right, nor on the friendly projectile. Okay, good. We don't have just a rigid body over here. Let's quickly add it. Remove the gravity, remove just freeze all position but except for the y-axis, and just apply on both. Alright, and also on the enemy projectile, oh my bad, it's fine. Okay, so just hit apply for both. Clear the console, and let's quickly see. So these are spawning, these are shooting as well. And can we shoot? Yes, we can. Just for now we can actually just spam a lot of shots at the same time because we don't have any kind of delay. Hopefully we can add this in the next episode. Yeah, okay, so okay, good. Okay, so we have the basics of this game. I hope you can actually just finish it in the next episode. If not, then we will be finishing it on the even next one. But there will be like a 2 weeks break after the next episode, just so you know. Yeah, okay, so this is where we actually will finish today. So we got a lot of stuff, a lot of coding today. In the next episode there will be much more graphical stuff. There is much more stuff to add from the level design, and also to actually make it playable in terms of replayable. Whenever our player gets hit with a bullet, then he has to lose, right? And we also need to be able to destroy enemies and, I don't know, maybe gain some points for them. We'll see. I'll just quickly have to think what type of other game features can be added and would work good for this game. Okay then, so I'll see you in the next episode in 2 days, on Thursday, at the same time as always. Yeah, okay, goodbye.